Are you ready to rock and roll? Alright, alright. I hope you sons of bitches seen the light. So, Dr. Rock opens this one up. Lemmy was really dismissive about this. I remember in his autobiography, White Line Fever, he said, we released it, but it was a mistake. He said it was a mistake and failed miserably sales-wise, or something, didn't sell a lot. And I think the mastering of it, he said, was bad. Because whoever was doing the mixing, they just didn't have the thing to stand up to Motörhead. I think the thing is, Motorhead, when they're recording, each band member would say, "Oh, I want to be the loudest. Push that fader up, of my track." And the good producers or engineers for Motorhead, like Vic Mail, would say, "Sit down and shut up," and put them in their place. And later on with I keep forgetting his name, the chap who did Inferno and several others, Cameron Webb. He'd actually apparently called Mickey D once out and said, "You've got to do your drums again." And Lemmy and Phil later told him, said, "Nice one standing up to him, because if you'll stand up to Mickey, then you'll stand up to the rest of us." So anyway, yeah. So whoever mixed it, they mixed it according to whatever orders whatever one member of Motörhead was giving them at the time. So the mixing isn't that great. I mean, it's a live record. It's a bit. It's like scratchy. Slightly scratchy. It's weird. And it was released in '88, so definitely during Motor's worst years, the late '80s. I know Phil Campbell particularly was having a really rough time during this period. I think he was on 2 bottles of vodka a day and arguing with Lemmy all the time. I mean, even Ozzy Osbourne said Phil Campbell almost died. During that time. So if Ozzy Osbourne said you almost died, then you probably were having a pretty rough time of it. That story. He was always threatening to leave the band. That was it. Phil Campbell said they were in Yugoslavia, driving through some desolate, nothing around, just forest or something, driving along this mountain track. And Phil Campbell's argument, he said, "Right, stop the bus. I'm getting off the bus. I'm leaving the band." And the bus driver was like, "Yeah, sure, just stop the bus." Psh, doors open. So it was night time. There's a gale blowing. There's just all forest around and this mountain and whatever. And let me say, there was this light shining about 4 miles off, just as one light. And as Phil Campbell sort of determinedly looked at it as though he was going to try somehow to walk over there, like it went out. So, yeah, but, he was. And then about Lemmy said to him one time, he humoured him for a while and stuff. And then eventually he sort of called his bluff a bit, like he did with Fast Eddie Clarke, arguably, and just said, "Excuse me," and just said, "Phil, if you keep leaving this band, I'm gonna have to let you. I've had enough of it. So if you're gonna quit, just quit. Stop, throwing your weight around." And Phil was much better after that, apparently. But anyway, that was just Phil Campbell, but it wasn't a great time from all the legal battles. This was the only record they released in 4 years, and a live one at that. So there's no new material. However, I don't think it's dismissed so easily, because what it does do, it offers the discerning Motörhead fan, it offers them live versions of several tracks off Rock and Roll, which for the review I've done for that album, I always said the thing about Rock and Roll for me is the production is so crap. The songs themselves, I said if someone like Vic Mail had produced it, that it'd be really top album. And I can still listen to it. I still like it. I can listen past the imperfection of the production, but they are obviously there. That's another review, but horrible boxy, and it's not mixed, doesn't sit properly in the mix, and all this sort of thing. But what you do get here is you get the good tracks off Rock and Roll. Some of the good tracks, because I like most of the tracks off Rock and Roll, particularly Traitor and Dogs. And you start to hear them properly in the live setting. So it's a slight scratchiness in the live mix, but c'est la vie. And you start to so it's good to hear those songs being played live and kind of as they should be. Traitor Dead Fast, and that was in the set for years. Traitor and Dogs, just a really good slamming indictment. Just one of Lemmy's favourites things, human stupidity, politicians, and believing politicians and all this sort of thing. And Eat the Rich, which Eat the Rich is it's a clunky mix on that rock and roll. It doesn't. I mean, it's a bad mix, but even so, it doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the songs. I think it's recorded somewhere else, but it's a bad mix. But Eat the Rich on the No Sleep at All, it really swings. It's got a really good. And when it comes out the guitar slang, everything comes back in. I get the old moment. I always do that, but when music really touches you, you can hear I can just imagine Wurzel like going up to the front of the audience, because it was a big festival in Finland. Where are we? Haminlina. Well, there we go. It's pronounceable. Giants of Rock Festival in Finland. So I think Motörhead, they were still like a big live draw, especially in certain parts of Europe, Eastern Europe. They were getting massive crowds. You know, they play Hungary or something, it'd be like 50,000. But then I saw a photo of them the other day. It was on the Facebook group I follow. I can't remember the name of it now, but I follow several Motor tribute bands, and they play some good photos, unusual stuff. And it's Motor playing in '85 in Sweden, I think. And it's ridiculous. It's like a outdoor fair. It's like I suppose maybe 100 or something people, but it's really weird. They're on this big stage, but it's just an empty field basically. Reminds me of the sort of weird gigs I used to get when I was like 17. You know, play at the local, local church puts on a fair, and your mate's mum is in the choir, so you get the gig to play some covers, that sort of thing. Just looks like that. I wonder if they got a cup of orange juice and a chocolate eclair for it. Sorry, I don't know why I said that. This is where we're going. Yeah, so they were a massive live draw, and of course they were to try and make ends meet. They couldn't release anything rather than these legal battles, so they were just touring relentlessly. But I'd say this album it offers some great rock and roll tracks. The Dogs Eat the Bass Spades, Eat the Rich. Got Dr. Rock, which I opened with, and that was a common crowd opener. Built for Speed and Death Forever. And Killed by Death. I love this intro for that. This song was a big hit for us. I've got 10,000 copies under my bed. Yeah, and Overkill at the end. And it's got Just Because You Got the Power, which I said this before, but on Everything Loud and Everything Else, the video that was released there in the 91 on the 1916 tour, they do a version of the Just Because You Got the Power, and it's so good. On this one, it's just too slow for me. It just kills it. That ding 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 dang ding ding dang ding ding dang ding 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 dang, because it really is not the best riff in the world. But when it was sped up, that ding 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 ding, you kind of thought, yeah, that's you kind of locked in then. But it was just too slow normally for me. And yeah, they sort of did that one almost right to the end. He got resurrected when the three of them. But it was just the three of them like later on, like towards the end of the 2000s. And I can never work out why, because it's definitely one of their weaker tracks, unless it was played at a proper speed. Anyway, so for some reason they knocked off some tracks, which they later stuck back on the re-release. Stay Clean, Metropolis, standard, totally familiar to any Motorhead fan. Apart from Live in Athens, Metropolis was retitled Acropolis. Oh, and they did Orgasmatron. So yeah, and yeah, the album was released, didn't do anything, and they toured America on the strength of it, with opening up for Slayer. So by then, Motorhead were definitely taking what tours they could get, and only really in Europe were able to do the big shows themselves. But I don't, I say Lemmy just kind of dismisses it straight out of hand in his autobiography. And it's one of those things, Lemmy, when he released an album, apart from a couple, it was always like the best thing Motorhead ever done. This is brilliant. This is the best. And same for this album. So he all but dismisses it in his autobiography. But Mick Wall, the journalist and author, Mick Wall, music journalist, Mick Wall's done a great biography of Lemmy, and in that biography actually says Lemmy came up to him at the time of the release of No Sleep at All, said, "Oh, you heard our new live album?" And Mick said, "Yeah, you know." And they said, "What do you think?" He said, "It's great." And Lemmy just, Lemmy being nobody's fool, Lemmy's like, "But," Mick Wall said, "Well, but it's not the same as No Sleep to Hammersmith." Lemmy was like, "Don't say that, it's miles better," and all this sort of crap. But there was never gonna, you were never gonna, you're never gonna. It's like there's albums, there's Thin Lizzy live, there's the Who live at Leeds, and there's Motörhead No Sleep to Hammersmith, and nothing's ever gonna touch it that band makes or anything else. But it's still, it's a good album. Shame it didn't do more for them, but as I said, it does offer some of the tracks off rock and roll in the proper live setting, and let's hear them with the energy and passion that the live recording causes. And that's about it really. And it just, they wouldn't release anything, so that was 88, 89, 90, so it'd be 3 years before they could release a proper album, which was 1991, which finally was going to give them a bit of a, see them get some recognition again.